Hello and welcome to the tutorial video for version 2.0 of the Unreal Engine 2 Gaussian Splat plugin. So in order to turn your Unreal Engine scenes into Gaussian Splat, you need to place cameras. Like you see in this example, I got this Gaussian Splat, and by the way you can explore it on Super Splat. It's pretty detailed, and on the right side you can see the camera placement I used for it. You see here, okay, and then here. Now the plugin comes up with two kind of cameras. The one camera is a single camera, which is this one, and as you can see, the cylindrical camera rig is pointing towards the astronaut, okay. And in this case, every camera you see here is an individual camera and a single camera, right? And then we have another kind of camera, and which is this one, and this one is called a capture point. What this one does is, wherever you spawn this capture point, it it kind of works like a 360 camera, but instead of capturing a 360 image, it spawns cameras from this point outward in a 360 fashion, like a spherical fashion, and captures the number of images that you define here. So you can open the settings for the plugin by clicking on this wrench icon, and the cams per location is the number which defines how many cameras will be spawned, or how many images will be captured per capture point. Okay, so now that we know the difference between the two cameras, let's see how we can spawn them by using the tools that come with the plugin. So the first thing you're gonna have to do is make sure the plugin is enabled. So go to plugins and search for Unreal to Colmap and make sure this is enabled. And then in the place actors, you can search for U to C, and you will see all the camera rig features that come with the plugin. So let's drag and drop the path capture rig first. Okay, and in here, if we go closer, you just need to deselect it and select it again, and press G on your keyboard, and you will see a SP line. And this is actually very simple. You just need to create a path, and the system will spawn capture points along this path, and then you can define the distance between the camera like capture points in the details panel. So if we go here, you can see distance between locations. So let's say we set it to 150 or 100, and then you can use multiple copies of it. So for example, like this. Okay, and then this is one of the ways you can. Here's a good example of a scene where you can use the path rig. So right here you can see we have a bunker scene, and I just made this path. So what we can do is create this little path, and then let's make some copies. So let's, for example, make a copy here, and then one over here, right? And then we can select all of these, go a little up, then move this one, not the point but the actor, like so. And then we can grab another copy right here. Right, so now how do you know how many pictures will be generated if we spawn this setup? So the way you can know this is just go to the Unreal to Colmap settings panel here, and it will tell you how many new locations you have in your map, and how many pictures based on your current layout and setup will be generated. And it says 1850 because cams per location is set as 10. So for example, if we increase it, the number of images will be also increased. Here it says new locations, but I will fix it. This is the number of images that will be generated, right? And if we use a lesser number, you see the images number also decreases. Right, so let's move on to the product rig. So I will get rid of this. Now drag and drop the product capture rig in the scene, and let's see how we can work with this one. So one of the ways you can use this is just move this actor towards your product or character, whatever you are capturing. But the more suitable way is, after you drag and drop this in the scene, in the details panel you have to select you will see this option spawn and look at mood. So you can select distributed target actor bounds. Okay, and then for the target actor you just need to click on the dropper and select your actor, which in my case is this astronaut. And so now all the cameras you see are pointing towards the astronaut, and they are centered around the character. One note I would like to mention here is that this astronaut is a static mesh, not a skeletal mesh. Skeletal meshes are not supported at this time, but will be supported in future. All right, so once you select your actor, then let's go through all the settings. First of all, you can see some of our cameras are underground. So the way you can fix it is, if we go into the details panel, you will see a height offset. Okay, so now you can use this height offset to offset the cameras. And then the Z layers is the number of Z layers you want to have. Okay, and then you can decide also the camera radius, like so. Okay, and I noticed that the Z layers are I don't need the top Z layer, so let's reduce it to 5. Okay, and then I can also reduce the height offset. For example, if you press Ctrl and then reduce it, then it reduces at a slower speed and gives you more control. Okay, so this is how it works. And then if you want to make any change, for example, you can also change the mood of the rig from the capture mode. So right now it's cylindrical, but we can make it spherical as well. All right, we will have a look at the spherical in a moment. And then you have half cylinder if you want to capture just one side of something, and then also half a sphere, and you can also set its arc degree, things like so. All right, but let's get back to the cylindrical. Okay, and one note I would mention here is, once you are happy with the overall layout, but you want to change some specific parts, like maybe you want to delete this camera, and the way you can do is, once you're happy with the layout, you can just click the explode button and it will explode all the cameras into individual actors. So now you can just grab individual actors, delete them, or make adjustment, whatever you want. Let's all right, so now let's see how the spherical mode works. So I will drag and drop the product capture once again, product capture rig I mean. So now this time it doesn't matter, like if you are using the target actor mode, then it doesn't matter where you place the actor, right? So once you drag and drop it in the scene, just change the spawn and look at mode to distributed target actor bounds. Then click the dropper and let's select this moonlander. And now let's increase the radius. For this one, let's use for because this one is kind of bigger at the base, but it less in size over the top. So spherical, I would assume will work better with this scenario. So let's switch to spherical, and then um, increase the radius a little bit, and then let's also increase the number of cameras. So the latitude rings right now is at 5. Let's increase it to, let's say, maybe 20. Yeah, 20 looks good. And then we have cameras per ring, so let's increase that as well. Right, maybe little more. Yeah, okay. And so now if we go closer, you can see that the camera distance the distance between cameras is fine in the middle, but as we go up, especially this ring, this has cameras at really near distances. So the way you can fix this is, there is a setting named polar camera density. So if you reduce it, it reduces the number of cameras along the top layers of the sphere. So now you would notice even better camera distribution. Another problem with the sphere rig is, for example, if we go down, you will notice that a lot of cameras are spawned underground, which are not needed, right? So the way you can fix that is, there is a parameter named bottom cut %. So if we increase it, you will notice that the cameras are no longer underground. And then I think we need a little greater radius so that these things are covered. And the cameras are also still underground, so let's maybe increase the bottom cut % a little bit. Okay, and now we this is ready. And you see this we have a camera on the top. You can enable or disable it by checking the include top and bottom captures. All right, so this is how the product capture rig works. Now let's move on to the volume capture. But before we do that, let's do a little test capture for the astronaut, and let's open the Colmap config, which you can open by clicking on this settings icon. The icon in 5.5 looks like this, and then in 5.7 the icon looks like this. So this is a difference you need to remember. And then, like for this astronaut, I also want to generate masks, because I want to only train the astronaut and not the outside environment. So what we can do is we can enable masks here, and as you can see in the note, it says for whatever actor you want to enable masking, just take it with enable masking. So once you selected the product, just in the detail spinner search for tag, and then for the actor tag, click on this plus icon and give it a tag named enable masking, right? And then I have enabled the masks, and just so we have a quicker test, I will reduce the number of cameras. So let's reduce it to 4, and this one also 4, right? And this will give us this much cameras, but because we have this giant sphere setup as well. So let's get rid of this, and now we will only be generating 16 pictures, right? So here you can decide the dataset directory, right? So for me it's Gaussian Splat and chair. Let's change this to astro test mask, right? And for the resolution, let's go for something lower, 1024 by 1024. And because it's a product, let's go with 24 focal length. But for environments or archviz scenes, I recommend 12 because it then gives you most. It covers a lot of the scene. Okay. The point cloud density, I have added a bunch of modes here. For a majority of your jobs, you can go with balanced or also the dense, but the other modes are there for you to experiment. If you want a denser point cloud, you can choose between the raw presets, and if you want a cleaner and not too dense point cloud, you can go with the fast one or balanced one, right? So for this one, let's go with the raw product dense, right? And then I just need to click on capture. And by the way, because the system uses the high-res screenshot system, so whatever setting you have in your viewport, it will be it will work with the screenshots. So right now this is set at high. If you want cinematic quality, you can switch it to cinematic. And before we do the capture, one final instruction is you need to make sure that in your post-process volume, the exposure is locked. As you can see, I've locked it to manual because for Gaussian splat training, it's very important that the dataset is consistent throughout the pictures, right? What happens with the auto exposure or eye adaptation feature of Unreal is based on from where you are looking at this at a particular area, it changes the auto exposure, right? So then the dataset would not remain consistent. Same goes with the vignette. So you have to make sure that in image effects the vignette is set at 0. So these are the main key killers. I would want you to keep them disabled. For the rest of the post-process settings, you can experiment with it, right? So now let's go with the capture. Once the capture is completed, you will see this dialog box, which will also tell you the total time it took. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the folder. And in the folder, you will get images, masks, and sparse. Let's go to sparse. Here you will get cameras, images, and points 3D text files. And in the images, you can see that our astronaut is perfectly isolated. And then we also have masks. Now let's try to import this in both Lichfeld and PostShot. So let's go with Lichfeld first. So inside Lichfeld Studio, you have to go to File, Import Dataset, and then select your folder. Okay, and it will auto detect all the masks as you can see here, right? And then click on Load. And if you want to use the masks, you have to select the mask mode as segment or alpha consistent, right? And then you also have an option to whether you want to use the alpha of the RGB, because the RGB images also has alpha, right? So in Lichfeld you have the support for this. So if you enable this, it will use the RGB pictures alpha as a mask. Otherwise, it also detected the masks from the masks folder, right? So if you disable this, it will still work. So the images actually I rendered this at 512 resolution, right? So it's pretty like a simple data set, but you can see the point cloud here and also the cameras, right? And then if we hit training, you will notice that all the things on the ground got disappeared because masking is working, and we have this astronaut getting trained. Okay, so now let's see how we can use masks in post-shot. Now in post-shot, there is a little hack I will tell you. Maybe there is a better solution, but you can tell me in comments. So if we import the dataset straight away, you notice that the image count it detected is 24. However, we only have 12 images, as you see here, and the other 12 are the masks, right? So in this case, what I do is, if you know a better solution, again tell me, but what I do is I delete them, like move the masks folder and then import the dataset, and then if we open this one, image masks, here we can import all our masks, right, like so, right? And then you can set all your training parameters and then click on import, and your masking will work in post shot as well. Alright, this is just a simple test with better resolution, of course, and better number of images. It's gonna work well. Okay, next let's have a look at the volume capture rig. So here is an example of where we can use the volume capture rig. On the left you can see the trained Gaussian split. Okay. Yeah, by the way, it's available on Super Split on my profile, so you can go and explore it, right? So this is how it looks, and on the right, let's actually maximize this, and this is how I placed the capture points around the scene to get the result that you just saw. And I will tell you how I place this with the volume capture rig. So let me open a fresh copy of the scene. Okay, and in here all you have to do is just drop the volume capture rig, right? And when you drop it first, it's gonna show nothing, and I have deliberately switched off the real-time preview for this because otherwise it can be heavy on performance. But if we click on rebuild preview, you see that it still doesn't appear anything, and it's because the way this is designed is, if there is any capture point inside of a mesh, it will get auto deleted. Okay, so the system works in a smarter way. However, it can also create problems. Now I have fixed this for the default meshes like Skysphere as well as HDRI backdrop, right? But for the other meshes, you have the option in the details panel to exclude those from the checking list. So in the filtering section, you will see an option additional ignored actors, right? So my first suspect is this one, so let's add that in the volume rig. So select the volume rig, and for the additional ignored actors, just click on the plus icon, then select the dropper and select this actor, and then let's try pressing rebuild preview. And now you see that the points appeared, but they are still not appearing inside of the house. So let's see what's going on here. My other suspect was that maybe the walls are a single object, and it was actually the case. As you can see, if I select the walls, it's entirely single object. So the system assumes that the points are inside of the mesh, right? So we need to exclude, but as you can see, there are like two instances of the walls. One we just moved, and one in here as well. So let's add both of them in the exclusion and see if it works. Okay, so in the filtering, just add two more actors, and then for this one, you can read the name wall 001. So let's add this one, and then let's hide the wall 001 by selecting it and then pressing H on keyboard, and then let's select the volume capture rig again, and then for the third one let's select this wall. Okay, and then uh, click on the rebuild preview again, and now you can see we have the capture points appeared. So the way you have to set up your volume capture inside of the house is you have to, like, the capture points spawn at the top bottom and top bottom edges of the volume, right? So what you have to do is you have to make sure that the top and bottom edge has a gap like 1.5 feet or 2 feet from ceiling and from floor, right? So let's do that adjustment. Let's reduce the size to, for example, 150, and then move it up like so, right? And now you can see that we have the top edge in here and the bottom here. So let's maybe decrease the size a little further, maybe 130. Yeah, I think 130 is better. And then let's rebuild preview, and you see that we now have 3 layers, but for this scene I used Z layers as 4, so let's set the Z layer to 4. The goal is to, you know, uh, um, have the entire area covered as much as possible, right? So for example, with this setting you see that we have the capture points, but they are not too many, right? And also I noticed that the top cameras are, you know, very near to the ceiling, so let's decrease the size, or maybe let's move the actor a little downward, so maybe 175. Yeah, that looks much better. Maybe 180. Yep. Okay, so now we can do a couple things to increase our, you know, intensity and density. But first of all, let's go to the top view and set up um, set up our volume in a way that it covers the entire apartment, right? I mean all the areas that we want covered, right? Similar to the ceiling and floor, you also need to be careful for the sides, like the side here and also this side. But in this particular scenario, because we excluded the walls mesh, so it doesn't matter. But regardless, let's keep it here, and then maybe reduce the size. We need to cover the bedroom as well, so let's increase it like so. Yeah, much better. And then a little more reduced, maybe like that, and keep it here. And then let's set up the Y value like so. Okay, let's reduce it. Yeah, I think it works. Maybe a little less. So 180, 1080, so 1070, and then let's move it a little bit to the right. Okay, and then if we go back, like if we click on rebuild, you see that it now covers the entire area, but the intensity is still not too much. So the way you can increase, like you can experiment with you know, multiple values. So maybe this setup will work for you, but what we can do here is decrease the camera spacing. Right now it's set to 200, so maybe let's set it to 120. Okay, and then rebuild preview, and now you can see that we have much like better area coverage, but you can see that we have some actors hitting the ceiling as well. And because the ceiling is also part of the bigger walls objects, these actors did not get deleted automatically. So a hack, like, what you can do is, once you are happy with the best layout, you can click on explode to explore everything, and then delete individual things. Or else, for this experiment, what I did is I reduced the volume size in Z. So let's say 115. Okay, and then I also moved it uh, downwards, so maybe 170, 170, and then let's rebuild. So now you can see that we have on the floor and also on the ceiling, and it works here as well, right? So you can play with the setting to achieve a best layout, and then um, you can see that we have some capture points spawned on the outer side as well, and excluding that is pretty straightforward. So let's go to top view. Along with the volume capture rig, you get this volume capture exclusion volume. So let's add that, and let's make sure it covers the entire height. So go to front view, and let's scale it up. So for this sector, you can use the scaling instead of setting the box extent here, right? So now that we have scaled it in z-axis, let's go back to the top view, and then let's place multiple copies for this one. So maybe one copy that covers the area like so, and then another copy here that covers the area like so, right? So as soon as you add those and then select the volume capture and press rebuild, it will delete all the capture points that are inside of the exclusion volume, right? Let's have a look in perspective again. Okay, once you are happy with the layout, and by the way, if your capture points still appear inside of a wall, like in this case, what you can do is maybe just play with the setting. Instead of camera spacing 120, let's use 125 and see what happens. It did not change anything, but maybe 115. Yeah, and you see that the capture point got out of the wall. Or else what you can also do is, if you want to keep the camera spacing like this way, just add the exclusion volume near the, like, on the wall, and it will delete um, the capture points that are inside of the exclusion volume, right? So once you're happy with the layout, you can go ahead and you know give it a directory and use whatever resolution you want. And my recommendation for all the interior scenes is a focal length of 12, but you can also play with this one. And for the point cloud density, for this test result, I used the balanced profile for the point cloud density, and it worked pretty well. But it's something you can experiment. So once you're happy, you can just go ahead and click on Start Capture. And because I already have this layout, I will show you something interesting. So first of all, let's go to the folder, Gaussian Splat. So this is the one, archviz, and in here you can see we have images. So I captured 2510 images using the same volume capture rig that you saw. So let's try importing this in the Lichfield Studio. Alright, so you can also drag and drop it in here. And once you click on load, it will show you the number of points it generated. So uh, 861,000 something points, right? And so we can also explore all the points in here. The camera preview in here is pretty giant, so you can turn it off like so and see your point cloud. It did a really good job with generation of the point cloud. And in here I noticed that I got this weird cube, and maybe it's something which is like let's see what it is. But it did not affect the training. So this is the same dataset I used for training of this splat, right? And as you can see, it's like there's nothing in here, right? So I assume that there is something hidden inside Unreal, but because there is nothing like so in the real images, the like RGB images, the training was smart enough to exclude it. But let's see if we can find what it is. So maybe go to visibility collision, and there is nothing. So I have no idea what it is, but it doesn't matter because it the when you train it, the this will automatically disappear. Now here's the cool part. So let's say you got the final result, okay, and you notice that some of your areas need better coverage. So for example, if we look at these pots on the kitchen counter, you notice that I don't have a better result in here, right? Now the good news is you don't need to recapture your entire data set. You can add more images to an already existing data set, and I will show you how that works. So let's open the scene where I have the same setup, okay, and in the Colmap config panel, if you will point it to the same directory, so in my case it's the archviz folder, so let's copy that and paste it here. It will like take a few seconds because it's analyzing the dataset. So as soon as you do that, you notice that now the button says no new cameras detected, right? And pressing this button is gonna do nothing, right? Because there are no new other cameras. So what you can do now is, for example, you can use the product capture rig. Okay, let's close this for now. But as soon as we drop the product capture rig, you notice that uh, for for the Colmap config, it's showing 36. Like this should say images, but yeah, you got the point, right? So now let's set this up. Instead of actor center, distributed target actor bounds. Yeah, select this one. Go spherical. Reduce the radius. And also the camera preview is pretty giant, so let's go to the preview section and reduce that as well. Okay, and okay, yeah, the good thing is the the entire object is merged, so it's covering the entire like stove and also the both the pots. So what we can do now is give it a larger radius, like so. We need to make sure we are not hitting the ceiling here. Okay, um, maybe a little less, like so. And then let's reduce the bottom, like cut it from the bottom, like so. Okay, and I don't need too many cameras on the top, so let's reduce the polar density as well. Okay, this should be fine, right? So now uh, the plugin will automatically only render 44 images for you instead of re-rendering the entire 2510 images. And then you can import the same dataset in Lichfield, and you will just need to retrain it in either Lichfield or Posha, whatever you are using. But the point is that you won't have to re-render the entire dataset if you just want to add additional data. That's it for now, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and I also recommend you joining the Discord community, and I will try to be helpful as much as I can. Alright, let's end this here. Thank you.